So Territorial Tom here. Today we're at our research farm located in London, and what we're doing today is we're going to show you how we make our compost tea and how that works. We're in a building, it's a small structure here at the farm, and we affectionately call this the brew house. And unfortunately it doesn't have anything to do with beer, but it has something that is of greater value probably than beer is to us here at the farm, and that's we're brewing compost tea. So our base ingredient in the compost tea process is exactly like the base ingredient in all of the soil mixes that we make, and that's vermicompost or worm compost. So it's the product again of the breakdown of the matter by the California red wigglers that we use, and vermicompost is a natural rich fertilizer and soil conditioner. Earthworm castings contain like 5 to 11 times more nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium as normal soil in your garden does. Between the worms and the other soil microbes that exist in the vermicompost, they produce humic acid and other natural growth hormones. So that results in the perfect living soil for plants. So vermicompost in the soil, vermicompost is the base ingredient for the compost teas. So the compost tea is basically, this process making compost tea is basically an extraction process, and it's actually a growth process because what we're doing is we're growing the population numbers of the microbes that exist. If we were to put just straight vermicompost in here without any food additives, we're going to get 3 to 5 million microbes at the end of a brewing process, which that sounds like a lot, 3 to 5 billion. But if we were to add food to this, and food in this sense is we add kelp and molasses to it, at the end of the 24-hour brewing process, we've got over 1 billion microbes in the same amount of liquid. And so with those kind of numbers, you can see how we could use this amount of compost tea to add it to all the plants that we raise for our mail order sales, and all the plants that we raise for our seed production at our retail store. And not only that, this is how we spread compost basically across our entire farm, because what we're doing is taking the active good microbes that exist in compost, brew them, increase their numbers, and we'll put them in spray tanks and the tractors and that sort of thing and apply it to the soil. So what we want to do is build the soil first. We haven't even talked about seed yet, but that's the way successful gardeners will continue, are successful, will continue to be successful, is because of the soil. So basically what we have here is the vermicompost that came straight out of our worm bin out of Walker. And this stuff is just dark and natural, and the consistency is light and airy. It smells wonderful. So now what we're going to do is add some kelp to the vermicompost, and this is part of the food process. So we just basically shake some inside there, and I'm going to just hand mix it up. So now, once we have it thoroughly mixed up, take the mixture and simply, we're going to be pouring it into what we call the brew sock, or another way to look at it is it's basically a tea bag, which is going to go inside the brewer, and that way it aerates all around and you're not going to get any of this material that plugs up our pumps or anything else. So we'll go ahead and pour this in. Now what we have is molasses, and that provides a lot of sugar, a lot of food for the microbes. So they really like this, like anybody who drinks beer probably. Sugar, molasses, so that goes right in the tank. We heat this up, by the way, so it flows easily. You can see it turning already. Thank you. So go ahead and put the sock in. There we go. air circulating in there. So we're going to take our 100 gallons of compost tea and transfer that into our 500-gallon mixing tank. Now, the mixing tank is what we use to either pump directly just compost tea to our greenhouses, or what we do is we'll add organic fertilizers as we need them. And we can go over that tomorrow when we pump it in there. So the 100 gallons of compost tea is now concentrated, and we have our 1 billion microbes working over here. So now what we need to do is pump the compost tea into the mixing tank. And at this point with the mixing tank is when we add our organic fertilizers. I thought it would be good to go over what we put in here. And this can be done at home too. This is something we do it here at the farm, but this is something any organic grower can do at their own home. So what we're going to be putting in here is blood meal, and blood meal gives us a soluble nitrogen for green growth. We also add bat guano. It has phosphorus, helps to feed the plants until the roots can absorb the fish meal that we put in the soil mix, and keeps them going for the little babies till their roots can take that up. And the other interesting thing we put in here is yucca. Now yucca contains iron, magnesium, manganese, phosphorus, selenium, and silicone. We have found that this helps the root system development, and we get a lot of resistance, we believe, to fungal diseases, and it contributes to the overall health of the plant. Then the final thing we put in here, and this is kind of a big deal. This is another gift that keeps on giving, and that's mycorrhizal. Look, the sun's out again. Typical Oregon weather. Rain in 1 minute, sun the next. Anyway, mycorrhizae. And mycorrhizae literally means fungus and root, which describes a mutually beneficial relationship between the plants and the root system. These specialized fungi that's in mycorrhizae colonize the plant roots and extend far into the soil. So what the mycorrhizae is doing is really increasing the surface area of the roots, allowing the roots to take up more nutrients that exist in the soil. And some studies say that's like 100 to 1,000 times. And since we've been using mycorrhizae, I know that that works for us because it makes these big root systems in our plants. And when you receive them from us, when the plants that we send you, when you pull them out of the pot, you'll see how full and white they are. And when they're full and white like that, they are taking up that space quite nicely, but they travel well too, so they don't just fall out. So these big healthy root systems is one of the reasons why our plants travel so well. So after they get in your garden, they've been inoculated with mycorrhizae, and that keeps giving to your garden. So what will happen is that root system will colonize your garden, and these things can make up to several miles of filaments, and that can be present, several miles can be present in one thimbleful of soil. So I think that's one of the big benefits of mycorrhizae. And the other thing they do is not only do they do it by the root systems being so big and vibrant, but they also release enzymes that allow them to take up hard or locked up nutrients such as organic nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, and all those tightly bound nutrients that's in your soil. So those enzymes help the plant to unlock that. So those two reasons help to explain why mycorrhizal plants or non-mycorrhizal plants require higher levels of fertilization to maintain their health. They're just simply not as able to take up the nutrients that are there. So that's a benefit for home gardeners. So anyway, I'm going to go on up and mix the organic fertilizer in the mixing tank. So what Mel's telling me here is that I'm talking too long. That whole thing on mycorrhizae was 2 minutes in itself. they like to try to tell me that people don't have the attention span to listen to all this. You know what I say? Turn it off, then turn it on. Turn it off, then turn it on. So there we have it. I just thought I'd add that making compost tea and fertilizing in this manner organically is nothing new for us. We've been doing this for over 20 years. I know it's new for a lot of people, but over 20 years ago we were doing tests in the field with Ling Ingham, and she's the foremost authority on compost tea brewing, and she actually introduced the whole process to organic agriculture, so she really deserves a lot of credit for bringing the whole compost tea process and microbes and living soil to the forefront. So anyway, this is Territorial Tom, and we'll see you next time.